Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Friday, March 25th. This is virtual lunch number 526. Our guest today is Luke Aaron, a strategic account director with Nuix. And this is part of our continuing series on the changing legal landscape with our friends at Nuix. Hi, Luke. How are you?
I'm very well, Harry. Thanks so much for inviting me along.
We're so excited to have this discussion today. Luke, tell us about your background and the work that you do with Nuix.
Yeah, no problem. So I studied law at university, qualified as a lawyer outside of London. And then about 10 years ago, when I moved into central London, I thought, do I want to go and work for a central London law firm with all of those hours? And fell into the murky world of e-discovery and digital forensics back then. So I worked for Kroll on Track for about 7 years, obviously, which is now KL Discovery, worked through that transition. And then a good friend and contact of mine took me over to Deloitte. So I worked for Deloitte for just a little over a year. And through the Deloitte relationship, actually, with Nuix, I got to know Nuix very well. And Neil Thomas is my director over here. So again, about a year and 3 months ago now, I came over and started working for Neil's team at Nuix. Nuix has such an established client base that some of the users are super users and are using the technology in such advanced ways that there's no way that I can come in and assist those technologically. So for them, I am a facilitator into the equally clever people we have in the business. Obviously, with other clients, then you are handling the sales process end to end. We have people who are acquiring Nuix all the time. We have people who are using it, but could do with introducing to the wider product stack. So I've always seen my role as a little bit of an adjunct between the client and the company, where I really want to sit on the client side and push their agenda within Nuix. If they're looking for improvements, then I want to sit on their side in these things and really play that middle ground. I'm obviously employed by Nuix, but I'm not here to be a mouthpiece of Nuix. I'm here to get the best out of the technology for my clients. So yeah, I've always tried to find that middle ground between the company and my client base. I once went to a sales summit at Kroll on Track back in the day, and there was one sales guy, and this was in the US, and he went, when I get in the room with the customer, I'm like a pit bull. I don't leave. I kick down that door and I don't leave until, and I was like, this guy could not sell to my customers. I just can't see how that works. I especially can't see how that works in the long run in this industry. To me, these are relationships based on trust over a long period of time. Very rarely do you get that one project that wins you so much business off a customer that it's not worth retaining that relationship. These are usually things which last years. And the only way you can do that is a consultative, trust-based relationship rather than I'm going to flog you what I can and then get out of here. I cover the whole of the sales cycle. So because I work for service providers and advisories, then obviously there's a finite number of accounts anyway, and a lot of them are known to Nuix or are already users. So I guess that is where the account management side comes in. But then absolutely within those accounts, then there is looking at the wider Nuix product stack, or how can we do things a little bit better? And then there is new business elements as well for customers who aren't using Nuix. We have a really good team of solutions consultants whose knowledge of the application of the tools goes way beyond mine. So I guess there's a point up to which I can go and then need to rely on that team to come in and give some of the technical expertise behind it. And then I guess I just sit there and track that through to close. One of the things that Nuix does face is when the tool can do so much that, as I say, we've got this strata of super users versus people who are picking it up for the first time. And how do you manage that strata of clients and make sure that people are getting the most that they can out of it, but whilst also not going, we're going to dump this on you and bog you down in all of the minutiae of what this can do. That's a really valid point and a balancing act that I've seen since I've been here. The SCs that we have are generally pretty good pitching it at the right level. We do definitely try and do that depending on who the user is. Installing Nuix is not the easiest process for the completely technical novice. Just getting it up and running requires a little bit of knowledge. The SCs do help out on that pretty well, but it's definitely one of the things that I've noticed here is that the strata of users that we have make it really difficult to give a one-size-fits-all approach to say, use the tool like this and you'll be fine. I guess I joined Nuix at the tail end, where after probably the most severe UK lockdowns. Certainly at Deloitte, we didn't do anything like that. I have heard of other people doing those sorts of things. I actually think that's a great thing to do just in the course of business. Our American colleagues would do it more. It's a sunny day. Let's just send some ice cream rounds to the office. And people really appreciated that and responded to it. That came from the KLD leadership who came in and took over Kroll on Track, and probably isn't a very naturally British thing to do, even for your clients who you know would appreciate it. We haven't really done anything like that, but I think it's a great point, and probably we should have done more. Absolutely. Maybe it should be something that, frankly, you just do more in the course of your relationships. Who wouldn't like it, right? Who wouldn't like just to think, oh, that person's just thought of us, or they've just made some gesture and gone out of their way. I mean, I'm looking forward to in-person interaction again. I mean, it's one of the things that makes my job bearable, that I've always loved about it. So we touched upon it earlier. The trust building in person, to me, it's the only real way to do it. So meeting people early on, whether that's an employee-employer relationship, a client-vendor relationship, a seller-customer relationship, whichever one you're trying to harness, then definitely having that in-person meeting and building it that way. In terms of what do I think works remotely really well, things like this, obviously. Whereas for someone like me, going to an in-person meeting can sometimes take 3 hours of your day, sometimes longer. If I'm going to Manchester, Amsterdam, sometimes it's whole days taken out. Whereas the regularity of at least seeing people and have conversations has become so much easier. And there's no doubt that this is better than just a telephone call. Having at least a virtual face-to-face and seeing the other person, seeing their facial expression. It's been a pretty good halfway house between telephone calls and meeting people in person. And it will definitely be something that will stay going forward and saves time on both sides. I'm pretty outgoing and usually quite happy, but that doesn't mean that the other person always is. So you still end up the same as any social interaction. You can sometimes have it when you're by far the most upbeat person on the call. There's still an element of that. At least this way you get to read it a little bit. At least I get to see people, and you can be flying in as Superman for one client because you know that'll go down well. And you can put on a shirt and trousers if you want for another client, just to make yourself feel smart that day. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all approach to this, the same as there's not when you meet people in real life, right? There's a degree of matching and just a degree of following social norms. Personally, I hope we end up with the best of both worlds. I hope that personal interaction comes back. I hope that people are going into city centers at least a few times a week, and you're able to coordinate and meet up when you can, but that this is a better fallback to just email comms or just picking up a telephone as it was a couple of years ago, now that we've got this accessible. To take your point, Ari, I remember I had a call with a head of e-discovery at one of the international law firms, tried to use Skype for Business and was staring at a thumbnail for 3 minutes, could barely hear each other, hung up the call, just picked up the telephone and ended up speaking to him. So the advancement in this and how easy this now is, I really hope we're moving towards a world where both stay highly relevant, because I would definitely now miss either. I obviously really want human interaction to come back.
Luke Aaron, everybody. Wonderful conversation, eclectic and informative and engaging. Just fantastic, Luke. Thank you so much. Thanks so much to our friends at Nuix, because this has been a great series on the changing legal landscape. And thank you all. I hope you have a great weekend.